fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Section's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome to week 10 of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, the Australian strength of field event for this series, which is conducted in the Audi RS3 TCR machine. As always, it's a short and spectacular 30-minute race coming up tonight with qualifying currently underway. We're live on SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, and Jay Kennedy is alongside me for this one. The venue for tonight's race, let's go to the Netherlands. Let's go to Circuit Park Zandvoort. Let's take a look at the track map, the track facts for tonight's race. Brand new overlay screen courtesy of Jay Kennedy. There is the Zandvoort circuit there in front of you, opened in 1939. Been in it, it's currently out for 20 years now. Track length of 4.3 kilometers, pit lane speed of 60 k's if they happen to need to use that at some point today. Of course, only 30 minutes, no need for a pit stop. And you can see there the vast array of quarter names that I'm not going to even bother trying to pronounce. And on this next screen too, you can have a look at some of the different speeds and top speeds and minimum speeds of the track. Top speed of 228 kilometers an hour. Highest corner speed, 203 over at turn 6. Lowest corner speed, 77 down at turn 3. 22 gear changes per lap. And on paper, Jay, it seems like, you know, a relatively straightforward track. Bit of twists, bit of turns, bit of this, bit of that. But in actuality, there's a lot of elevation and camber change on this racetrack.
Yeah, hello everyone, and you're exactly right. I think the thing that makes this track a lot tougher than it looks on paper is the elevation, the camber, the off camber, even that run from turn 4 up the hill to turn 8. You're shifting gears and accelerating the whole time. It's real tough, and getting to just over 200 k's in these cars before you're on the brakes, and then understeer central down the hill off camber through turn 8. It's going to be really tough ask for a lot of these drivers that may not have driven this track a huge amount. A lot of the old timers here on iRacing are excited to be out there racing tonight, but it's a tough old circuit, this one, so looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. It will provide some great racing, no doubt.
Certainly shall, and it's not the widest track you'll ever see in the service. In fact, I believe renovations being made to the track ahead of 2020, where the F1 calendar rejoins this racetrack in which it departed many years ago. And it'll be interesting to see how those renovations change the track. Hopefully they keep the vibe of the circuit, because it is a permanent racetrack, but it has a bit of a street circuit vibe to it. Those walls are tucked in very close, and even on turn 4, they're right up against the side of the track, and there's not much room for error. There's no tarmac runoff areas. It's all grass and gravel, so make a mistake, you're in a lot of trouble. In terms of qualifying, though, we've got a couple minutes remaining. This is a Klopman who's currently fastest, goes faster, a 46.1. He's 0.4 of a second clear of a second place man, Alfonso Rataria Mulas, who we saw last week out, have a good start to the race, but mistakes put him further down the order than he would have wanted. Daniel Cheney didn't have the best of runs last time out either, had a couple of mistakes, and his first lap time puts him up into 12th place, so not too bad of a lap from him there. There is 19 people altogether in today's race. David Goldaracina is another one of our drivers to look out for, 46.576. He stays third. I missed Mulas's time. A 45.993. He's gone 2/10 clear of Klopman. He goes to the top of the standings. So that's a brilliant lap from Mulas, the number 2 driver in this race. Jack Swainapole in 18th place currently. And the number 16 car comes out of that long uphill sweeping right-hander to finish off the lap and across to the start-finish line, which is quite a way down this main straight. It's only 38 meters. God, no. 325 meters on the run between the start-finish line and turn 1. So a short dash to the first braking zone for these drivers today. Swanepoel there went to 16th place. Andrei Sokolov is in 5th. He's going to cross the line. Where's he going to go? He's going to improve by about 100th of a second. In fact, I think he might have gotten off track on the lap. So he stays 5th. Jay, it's looking like a 2-horse race at the moment because Mulas and Klotman have got 4 tenths over Golda Racina, and it's even further back, further down the order you go. It's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge gap for what we've seen in this series so far. 2.6 seconds separating the entire field that have done laps. Got one driver that has not been able to complete a lap time. It looks like we are done for quali as well. But that midfield excites me though because that is very, very close. We're going to see some really cool battles in that mid pack as we always do. And getting the tyres up to temp is going to be the big key once again, as you can see the ocean off in the background there. The wind also is a big factor here too. Depending on the wind direction, which we haven't looked at yet, it can determine which gear you use in certain corners as well. If you're into the breeze or using a tailwind, it can affect your corner entry and approach speed. So we'll see how that plays out as well as we'll do the weather and then we'll get the grid.
Let's take a look at the weather then for this race. We've got a full formation lap to use up our time here. We got 23 degrees, which means a nice, comfortable 27-degree track temp. The wind you were talking about, southwest, 8 kilometers an hour, so not too bad for these drivers out there. Pretty nice track temp, partly cloudy sky too, so nothing too drastic for them to contend with in terms of the race. As I talked about earlier, 30 minutes, no pit stops, a sprint race around this 4.3 kilometer racetrack here in the Netherlands. Let's take a look then at the grid for today's race. It will be Mulas off the pole position with Klotman on the outside of that first row from second place. Golda Racina and Marcel off the second row of the grid. Sorry, mate, not going to attempt that name at the moment. Sokolov in 5th with Sespon in 6th. Hopley and McLeod making up that 4th row of the grid.
We've got Ruwald and also Harris on row number 5 with Morris and Cheney on row 6. Row 7 is Ruskin and Court with Ford and Swanepoel on row 8. And I think I won that battle of the names. I'll take the last couple for you because I got all the easy names there. Chris Barnes, Bradley Wingard and Jesko Kazmarek rounding out our 19-car field. A small field, but usually the smaller the field, the more action we see in some of these races because the guys are so much more evenly matched in regards to their pace. So we'll see how it plays out, but looking forward to seeing how it goes. As we said before, a full out lap, which means that or full formation lap, I should say, which means that the guys will have a lot more time to get temp into these very, very cold, hard tyres, which could mean that the racing will be a little bit more interesting on lap 1.
It could, and there's a few things to point out before this race gets underway. With that midfield battle, and with any battles we might see today, this track being quite narrow in terms of permanent racetrack standards, doesn't offer up an insane amount of overtaking opportunities. There's just a couple obvious spots and then a few risky spots outside of that. So drivers could see themselves in a train of cars unable to make moves, racing really close together for a large portion of this race, which often leads to some adventurous moves, shall we say. And the other thing to note as well that has actually slipped my mind, I'll get back to that. One of the other things though is we've seen lately, Jay, we have had quite a few international drivers jumping into this time slot, and for this, and obviously this is the Australian time slot for the biggest, strength of field race. All the big guys come out to play. A bunch of internationals getting up early or staying up late to stay in this race as well. It's great because it brings a different level of quality. For example, the top 4 drivers in this race are all internationals. Matt Morris, Mitchell McLeod, the first 2 Australians, and then there's 3 more internationals behind them. So some very fast drivers jumping in and putting their talent up against the Aussie drivers here. But it's an absolute pain for us commentators because half these names, they are just the European names, and we struggle with them. So we apologise, but
it wouldn't be a SimSpeed broadcast without me butchering someone's name, so
if you're
I'm hopeless.
And you're thinking, I might do this next week or in a couple of weeks, and you too are someone with a interesting name, please message me or Jay and tell us how to pronounce it so that we can give you some exposure and not just try to brush over your name because we love to give everyone the exposure they need. Very hard with some of the names. I will endeavour to do my best. I think I figured out it's Jurotsky, I believe, starting from 4th place of the grid. Please correct me if I'm wrong. We're making our way through the last couple of corners, and they'll head into that long sweeping right-hander. Should give a big opportunity here for Mulas to pick where he wants to go. It's going to be tricky for the guys behind to judge where he is going to get on that throttle. Going to be tricky for them to get on the throttle too, because they're going to be in the middle of a corner. Mulas, though, could wait and go very late and leave very little opportunity for these guys to get a run down to turn 1 with that just 300-meter run. Pace car going so slow, though, just 60 kilometers an hour, making their way now into the final couple of corners. This is one of the trickiest corners on the track I have found, Jay. That tight right-hander into a sweeping left, which is actually a bit banked as well.
Yeah, I know you said you did your first laps around this circuit today, and you're a bit surprised, but I think the braking zone there is what's going to catch a few drivers out there too, because that first part of that chicane is so tight, and then it just opens up, flip-flops back the other way. But the corner also extends. It's not like a normal chicane where you turn and then turn back. You've got to stay into the corner a little bit extra, so it adds an extra bit of difficulty as well. And you'll probably find a lot of guys can actually pass around the outside through that corner as well. So that will definitely be the action spot on the circuit, as well as turn 1. This run to turn 1 on this lap here is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Here we go then. The field's going to be in the hands of Mulas. Klopman's going to need to fall back just a bit. Now he does. So it's Mulas and Klopman off the front row. Who's going to get the jump? Klopman's gone early. Mulas, now he goes. He crosses the line in front of Klopman, who dives down to the inside to cover off Golda Racina, who almost rear-ended his teammate off the start of the race there. And Klopman goes in really deep to turn 1. Keeps it off the back of Mulas, and they single file themselves out for the first half a dozen spots. And then side by side is going to be Andrew Hopley and Mitchell McLeod, who slots in behind him. And then is James Ruwelt, just watching as McLeod is getting muscled out by Harris, who gives a shot to the back as they all Costantine up into this tight left-hander. And they make their way through now onto this back straight of sorts, sweeping uphill corner that you can take flat out if you've got the right line, but it can be tricky if you go side by side. And that is a pretty clean start, and I'm very impressed with that start for this field.
Yeah, really good start. A little bit of bumper-to-bumper action, a little bit of sideways action. But for the most part, everyone's got through clean. It's a little bit of a breakaway at the front, as you said, but the field all fairly clean. Is that McLeod defending there from Ruwald. And the front 3 look like they're starting to get a little bit of a gap, and might start to try and extend that gap a little bit more over the next couple of laps. But the draft is also going to be a key here. That front straight, and then you've got the big sweeping corner that leads onto the front straight, tends itself to then make drivers can stick with the driver ahead. So we could see some big lunges into turn 1 over the next couple of laps. After the drivers have got some heat in the tyres, though, it's back in the field. McLeod's under a lot of pressure here.
Harris just had a big lunge. Oh, Harris had a big lunge at Hopley. They ran themselves a little bit wide and off the track through that very tight right-hander, left-handed section there that we talked about on the pace lap, and McLeod almost advantaged him. Look at that line from Harris, right out in the grass, up and over the bumps. Sure, he got some airtime there. McLeod gives him a shot to the right rear, trying to find a way through, and that could have ended in disaster very quickly. It still might. McLeod too deep into the corner, gets into the side of Harris. They both slide, they both get away with it. Harris, though, going to lose a few spots. He loses to Morris and to Ruwelt, and trying to get through there too is Alex Court making contact. And he's off the track again as Harris, skating back on the track sideways, and saves it again. He's having all sorts of troublesome time now. Ruskin goes through as well, and Daniel Cheney wants to find a way through, but it looks like now the floodgates have sealed themselves shut, at least for the moment for Harris, and that was very awkward there from the man from the UK and Ireland.
Yeah, I think the big issue there for Harris was that he tried to defend and cover off down the front straight a little bit too aggressively, almost put McLeod into the pit wall. So McLeod come back the other way. He was making sure that Harris knew that he wasn't too happy with that attempted defence down the front straight, and that's why their action sort of come from that. McLeod's still under pressure, and Matt Morris looking to make moves at the moment.
Indeed, this is a energized little battle here from 8th on back. Mitchell McLeod, Ruwalt, Morris, Court, Ruskin, and then Harris, who's gone backwards. See whether he's got the pace to come back through this little pack of cars. Harris has just made contact there with Ashley Ruskin, who, struggling to keep that thing on the black stuff, made a mistake, opened up the door for Damien Owen Harris there, and he makes his way up one more spot, so that's one spot less that he'll lose on this lap, as Andrew Hopley up front takes a bit of the Harris line through the final corner, and they make their way through to complete lap number 2 and make their way onto the 3rd lap of this race. Out front, the gap sits at 1 second for Mulas, back to Cohen, Klopman, 1.5, back to Golda Racina, and then Jurotsky sits in 4th place. They're all pretty comfortable at the moment. Battle though, 5th place, Sokolov and Sespon right on the back of Jurotsky too. One little mistake and he'll be under a lot of trouble. Harris just made a mistake coming through turn 4 and gives up the spot once again to Ashley Ruskin. Harris didn't do too much race practice because he really seems to be struggling, making a lot of mistakes at the moment. Might have been focusing too hard on quali, or he jumped in with very little practice at all, which is definitely a possibility.
We almost made contact there with Ruskin into his rear as well, so he's definitely not comfortable with the pace he's got at the moment. Damien Owens, Aaron Harris, as we said, well, as you just said there, his qualifying pace was very, very good, but right now he's really struggling. Did gain a couple of spots on that first lap as well, as he's come back through, got the move back done on Ruskin, but what this is doing is checking up that entire secondary pack now, or 3rd pack even. And, the battle for the World Championship at the bottom half of the field is well and truly on now.
Maybe you coined that turn. It was in Barcelona, and all the action was happening down and around 14th place. It seems to be the place, doesn't it, where there's a very little pace differential.
There's some big sheep stations on down at the back of the field. I've spent a lot of time over the years at the back of the field, and I know that yeah, thanks. I know that's where the real battles happen, way back in the back of the field. So these guys, they play for keeps. They fight hard. They love a good battle, because sometimes in these races you don't often get someone to race with. So when you get someone to battle with, you take every opportunity you can.
What about this battle between Sokolov and Sespon for 5th place? It was side by side for the first 2 corners. And Sokolov was able to pull back ahead through turn 4 as behind them. He's watched a little battle there between McLeod and Ruwald, and this is when it's tricky to call and direct a race, because you've got many different battles happening all the way up and down the field. It's hard to know what to look at times, because as they ebb and flow their way around the racetrack, by the time we pointed out, they've separated themselves out again, and Mitchell McLeod and Ruel, they're not really separating themselves out though, to make their way through the middle section of the track. I think McLeod's just disappeared from screen. Oh, he's inside Ruel, and that was not where he wanted the Talking Merge Sport driver to reappear. They'll go side by side through the left-hander. Ruel's got the inside line. McLeod's going to get the drive off the corner. What can Matt Morris do about this battle? Is he going to be able to take advantage of it? Making their way down the back straight into the braking zone. McLeod on the inside. Ruel trying to stay level with him to get the inside for the left-hander, but he's not going to hold onto it, and Morris won't be able to take advantage of it either. So that puts Mitchell McLeod still ahead of Ruel. It's behind them side by side. No. There's going to be more contact between Harris, and this time it's Alex Court that loses out. Ruskin goes back by him, and it looks like Damien Owen Harris is a magnet for trouble at the moment. Let's get a replay of what happened there. Let's see. Court made a mistake through this bank little section of the track, ran very wide, had to get out of the throttle. That allowed Harris to get to his inside, 2 wheels on the grass. And then you'll see here down to the inside, makes contact, and Court just gets a bit sideways, manages to hold onto it, but loses out the spot to Ruskin, and is now under hard attack from Daniel Cheney and Aidan Ford as well, as Mitchell McLeod is also coming under also still from James Ruwalt and Matt Morris.
Yeah, staying on the replay here, because there's been something has happened here to McLeod. He's run a bit wide, and then Ruwalt's caught a little bit too deep as well. Had to check up to not make contact with McLeod. McLeod was able to hold onto the spot, so 2 mistakes in that little pack there, and that's now meant that Matt Morris is well and truly in position to attack on this position.
Indeed, he certainly
Did I
is.
say position twice in a row there? I think I
Yeah,
did.
quite possibly. We're watching this because there's very little happening at the front. Look at this!
Oh, no.
No, he makes contact with McLeod. And what is with people spinning and saving it today? He's saved it. He's lost 2 spots in a bucket of time. It loses out to Harris too. But that front wheel drive coming in trump there for McLeod. As you can see, Rualt was never really up there, and nothing McLeod could do. Left him the room, but Rualt was never pulling that car up, and McLeod gets deposited off to the side of the racetrack, and the number 17 machine goes through into 8th place.
A bit hard to see from those angles we got there, but almost looks as if McLeod may have turned it a little bit too aggressively there. Rualt was sort of thinking there was no one there, and then all of a sudden Mitch's car appeared, so we'll see if McLeod can get back on the tail, but Matt Morris is still well and truly in this fight now too. He's now up into 9th, and we'll see if he can get by as he's up the inside here, and side by side they go.
He'll be on the wrong place on the track, the wrong part of the track for turn 4. A hip jacket into the fence. Goes James Rualt back out onto the racetrack and collected by Ashley Ruskin. Cord has to go onto the grass to avoid them and slots back in front of Ruskin. They rub and bump their way through turn number 4. Daniel Cheney and James Swanepoel watch on as Aidan Ford is right in front of Bradley Wingard, who uses up some of the grass on the right-hand side. And this is half a dozen cars separated by not much at all, making their way up through the roller coaster of a section, a piece of the racetrack, and make into the really technical section of the racetrack. And that was just a little bit messy there. A hip check through 3, and unfortunately, it was Rualt that got deposited off into the fence. Let's get a replay up on the screen of what happened there. There's more contact on live pictures. Wingard just absolutely nailed the back of Ford. You can see he was, if you watch the tyres here, if the tyres are rotating, that means he wasn't on the brakes. And if they are stopped, he was most likely on the brakes, trying to stop that car from rolling back onto the track, into the fence, spins him to the right. Can't quite see from that angle, but he ends up right on the racing line, and nothing Ruskin could do. Great avoidance from Cord to not go into the back of Ashley Ruskin in the midst of all that as well. Might be interesting getting on board of Ruskin's perspective as he came around to the corner and saw a car right in his ideal racing line, and that awkward rejoin for Cord. Here you go, here's the onboard for Ashley Ruskin. He sees them make contact, he sees Rualt off to the left, can't quite see him. There he is. Oh, nothing he can do there. So hard for him to decide where that car was going to go, and split-second decisions. Unfortunately, I don't think there was a decision he could have made that would have resulted in a different scenario.
Even if he went for the grass, he may not have avoided making contact at all. Just wrong place, wrong time, which is really, really disappointing for Ruskin. Looks like he might have got away with it okay, though. His pace hasn't dropped too dramatically over the last little bit, but at the front of the field, the front 3 have closed up together. All 3 cars now in that front group are all closer than they were a couple of laps ago. So these guys are getting a little bit closer now. The tyres are up to temp. Yeah, the battle that we were talking about before between 5th and 6th, that is still around about the same. Gaps behind Matt Morris are all very, very stable as well. So there's some interesting little fights going on now.
Look at how close the battle for 11th place is. As separated by absolutely nothing making their way around this racetrack. That is over half a dozen cars under a blanket, and that is Daniel Cheney coming under threat from Swanepoel there. Making their way back onto the straight. Can anyone have a lunge up into here? Doesn't look like it might be possible this time by. But this is one of those battles, Jay, that seems like it's a recipe for disaster. This many drivers, a lot of these guys have been hard done by already in this race. Looking to prove a point, nothing really to lose being this far back in the pack as well. They're outside of the top 10 positions. You could see a move here that might not be the best in hindsight.
Oh, there we go, right on
who's
cue.
that off in the grass?
Ruskin.
That was Ruskin. Got that thing out into the weeds through the final corner. Rejoins, gathers it up right in front of Bradley Wingard, who will go flying by, as will James Rualt, who looks to recover from his early issues on the previous couple of laps. And Rualt now might get into the back of Wingard, who saw him coming. Props to Wingard there, who just juked to the left on entry. to avoid copping a whack from Ruwelt, as Aiden Ford is all over the back of Daniel Cheney, who's all over the back of Jack Swainapole, who's watching Alex Court drive off into the sunset. And this battle is providing some incredible entertainment right now. I'll just quickly check on the battle for the lead, because I tell you what, that's closed up too. Mulas is right in front of Klotman, and Klotman's right there. A tiny mistake from Mulas out front could see Klotman go through into the lead of the race. If they start battling, Golda Racina is going to be within striking distance too. So Mulas was a tenth of a second slower last time by than the guy chasing him down in second place. What's he got in reply? Has he got anything in reply, or did he go out a bit too hard too early? Maybe it was a case of Klotman didn't quite do as good a job getting those tyres up to temp, and is only now started to get them up to temp and started to make these things work how he wants them to get working as they make their way uphill through the right-hander and back onto the main straight. This will complete the 8th lap of the race. We are 15 minutes halfway into this race. We should be about 16 or 17 laps, depending on exactly how the time falls. But we're at that halfway mark, and it's looking like we're going to have a great battle for the lead of the race, because it is continuing to close down. 3 more tenths that time by between Klotman and Mulas. 4th place is coming under threat. Jurotsky from Sokolov. Sesfon's all by himself in 6th. So is Hopley in 7th. Then that battle 8th, 9th, and 10th. Then we go all the way back to this thrilling battle for 12th place. Swainapole, and who is that? Daniel Cheney's gone straight on at turn 1 and is taking a scenic tour of the gravel traps there, and will rejoin a long way off the back of this battle pack. Won't be too happy about that one, as Wingard's just gone wide and offered up the insides. Ashley Ruskin, and they're going to go side by side on to the roller coaster section. Contact as well, and up the front, Mulas is coming under threat. He'll hope there's no contact up front, because Klotman is hounding him. He's looking for a way through. He's looking to find any way through. Ruskin, back there, by the way, got deposited, got told to exit stage left on the run out of turn 4 by Bradley Wingard. Just some clumsy contact, and off into the fence went Ruskin, as my eyes were firmly taken away by that battle, while this one closed up through the midsection of the track. So, it's Mulas against Klotman. It's Iberia against Benelux. Heading into the second stage of this race, what can Golda Racina do? From 3rd place, he's starting to close in now. It looks like Mulas is struggling. Does he opt to go defensive into turn 1? He does. And Klotman now is going to have to look at the option of going the long way around, or maybe try the crossover. Look how deep he goes into the corner. Gets the whole car alongside him. If he can stay there, he's got the inside for 4, and he has stayed there. But what's Mulas going to do here? Can he stay around the outside of turn 4 and drag it on for another corner or 2? He's going to go deep. And Golda Racina's closed up now as a result of this side-by-side for the lead of the race, and Klotman takes it away. So Mulas slots into 2nd. Golda Racina still sits 3rd. But Mulas surely is going to want to take this spot back. He's within range. He can certainly have a look at the next corner. He's got to set himself up for it. And he's not got a great run through there. Golda Racina almost gets into the back of him. And that was a great move from Klotman. Set that one up all the way back at the final corner. He got the run onto the main straight and further back. The battles continue. This is Jack Swainapole, I believe. Oh no, sorry. This is still the battle for the lead, because I'm seeing completely different liveries to you, Jay, and it's always confusing when that happens.
Yeah, no, the guys that are watching it back, make sure you jump on the SimSpeed website and upload your liveries for us here to be able to show them on the broadcast, and will help us out with, having all the right liveries and see all the right sponsors. So head to simspeed.tv and you can do that, and of course live timing on simspeed.live as well. That was a really, really sensible move there from Klotman too. He just set that up beautifully, didn't he? Just forced the mistake from Mulas, forced him to defend too aggressively too early, and just held that outside line and did a great job defending that outside line as well, and forcing Mulas to not be able to cover off any potential switchback or anything like that, which then compromised Mulas's run, and still not quite enough pace, almost contact between them in turn 1. And Godricina's dropped a long way back, so he's obviously had a slowdown. So it's now a battle between two for the win in this race.
Was coming through the section of the track where we've seen so much happen in the third to last corner on the racetrack. Too much of the inside, had to slow that car down before that long sweeping right-hander falls off the back of this battle. But if Mulas can get back alongside Klopman, we may yet see Godricina back into contention for the lead, maybe even Jurotsky there in fourth or Sokolov in fifth. You never know. We saw just how quickly Godricina closed up when Klopman was making that move earlier, so you got a good representation there of how much going side by side slows you down when you're forced to take a much slower line through the corner. And well, last time by, what did they run? They ran 47 sixes. It's about half a second slower than their previous laps, and they were only side by side for 3 quarters.
Could also be to do with the way the tyres circulate their heat too, so it might take a little moment for them to get back up into optimum pressures. As Aiden Ford and James Ruart still going at it. I feel like these guys have been battling in some sort of battle, not necessarily with each other, but involved in a battle this entire race. It's good to watch them fight amongst themselves. And Chris Barnes, who had an exit off the circuit very, very early in the race, dropped back to last. He's now getting himself back up into 16th. Is that Wingard so deep? Oh!
Well, again, they've saved it, and there's something in the Netherlands air tonight that is allowing for some incredible saves out there on track. And I believe it was the man you were talking about, Chris Barnes, misjudged that braking marker by a good 50 meters, I think, and obscured from view by one of the many mountains in the area. And right there, just into the back of Wingard. Nothing Wingard could do about that. He was right up the back of the car in front of him, which was Aiden Ford, who's now side by side with Ruel through turn 1, looking for the crossover, but I don't think he's quite going to get it. He might have a run to lunge up the inside at 4, but for the car in front, it's very easy to defend the inside of turn 4, as you see Ruel do there. Just move the car over through turn 3, and Ford will have to think about how he can get that spot back as they make their way up through the various different elevation changes on this track. And elevation change is something that really aids to a fantastic racetrack, isn't it? Because it just provides a whole other dynamic to the circuit.
Yeah, you look at circuits that get built now and have no elevation change, they just lack character completely. So all these awesome old school tracks, even modern tracks with an old school feel, all have huge elevation changes, or elevation just in spots that make sense. And this is one of those amazing circuits that we worried we were going to lose forever back not that long ago, really, and now it's been saved, and not only saved, it'll host a Formula 1 race next year. So incredible to think the change and transformation of this amazing Zandvoort circuit. Is just saw Swampole off the circuit trying to get it stopped as Ford taking a very, very alternate line through the chicane. He's going to lose out a spot here to Bradley Wingard.
But he might not, because he's got the inside for this very long corner, and he will hold it off for now unless he's gone too deep. When was that last race at Zandvoort for Formula 1, Jay? Was it back when you were alive? 1950s? 60s?
Wow, okay. Can't say I was around in the 50s. But,
60s?
I don't know if I've been alive for a Zandvoort F1 race, but I'm not sure. Tell us
new for all of us.
Tell us in the chat if you know when it was. Matt Morris and Damien Harris have changed positions. Harris has got through turn 1. Matt Morris was almost able to get through, but well, back through, I should say. Couldn't quite do it. And just seeing too, Aiden Ford is stopped, and he is against the wall, and that looks like it's a very, very heavy impact.
It does, but there's no damage around to that car or the front end, so it seems either, which is something that I've noticed on these TCR cars. They seem very robust. He was side by side with...
Wow. Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting.
No, not at all. Rotated halfway down the straight by Bradley Wingard and into the fence and rolled all the way back into the tyre barrier through turn 3. Awkward crash, to say the least there.
I don't know if Wingard did nothing wrong there, really.
No, he didn't. He was just following it's Ruel there. was following Ruwalt through, and I think Ford didn't realise that Wingard was there and just came across to take the racing line. And unfortunately, Ford, there was very much a Audi-shaped TCR car parked firmly on the racing line. Let's go back to the front as, oh, who was that back there in third place? Golda Racina trying to shape the draft of Jurotsky and Sokolov, who are shadowing him there in 4th and 5th as they watch the leaders battle away in front of them. And what happened to Bradley Wingard here? We've got another replay up thanks to modem simulation. This is into the final few corners.
So that's
I don't
a failure.
think Wingard... Oh, yeah, that's either a failure or a complete lack of a brake pedal, which I suppose would be the same thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He's either missed his brake marker and thought, you know what, not worth it, or he's had a failure. But it's unfortunate for Wingard. He was in amongst all the action back there, wasn't he? He was having a maybe not the best race in terms of position, but in a fun race, I can tell you that. Speaking of fun, going to be a fun finish of this one, because Klopman has not been able to gap Moulas at all. It's a typical case of the driver out front is not able to get away. Moulas got clawed back in by Klopman. Moulas didn't seem to have the pace, but now Klopman doesn't seem like he's got the pace. And with just over 5 minutes to go in this race, he's going to be under all sorts of pressure to make no single mistake. Because if he does, Moulas is through, and it could be race done with how difficult it is to overtake on this racetrack. Turn 1 is where we've seen pretty much all the overtaking happening. And Moulas, if he can get a good run through these final 2 corners, he might well be up the inside at turn 1, because he's right there with him. It's less than a car length between them, making their way uphill around the right-hander, and has Moulas done enough out of the final corner? Don't quite think so this time by it's just a car length and a half down the main straight. The gap at the line, just 0.2 of a second, and Moulas shows the nose to turn 1. Just filling the mirrors of Klopman there. No intention of making a move unless he made a mistake. But just showing Klopman, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to make a move. You better get ready to start going defensive. Otherwise, I'm going to go straight up your inside.
This is a really good little battle too. As you can see the gamesmanship going on between these guys. There's been a bit of shuffling of positions back in the field as well. Chris Barnes has gone up a couple of spots. Ruwalt and Ruskin also changed positions too. So been a little bit of shuffling back in the field, but this battle at the front is getting very, very nervous to watch, nerve-wracking to watch even, because they both are on the absolute ragged edge. You can tell the way that the cars are behaving. They're driving them at 99.999%, because if they go a tiny little bit more, there's nothing left in these cars.
Yeah, exactly. What's Klopman a 47.3 and a 47.3 for Moulas. 47.7 for Golda Racina, 48.1 for Jurotsky, 48.1 for Sokolov, 48.1, 48.3. They're half a second to a second quicker than the rest of the field. That's how fast and how hard these guys are driving this car, as Matt Morris and Mitchell McLeod duking it out there. The two Aussies in a field of, I think actually majority international drivers, or maybe half and half.
Now, I've got an answer for you as well. Yes, I was alive during the last Dutch Grand Prix.
When was it?
I don't want to give away my age, do I? 1985 it was. 1985 was the last F1 Grand Prix here at Circuit Zandvoort, and it was won by Niki Lauda.
Well, there you go. Bit of F1 trivia today in your daily dose of TCR, sim speed, action, as Mitchell McLeod and just watch Alex Court make an absolute butchery of the few corners, and is actually going to come under threat now from Jack Swanepoel. Side by side, not going to happen. Swanepoel's going to back out of it. I think it is virtually impossible to go around the outside of that corner, but what a run he got! And that is a brilliant example of how to execute a crossover for a double apex right-hander. He got that one done fantastically, but he might be under threat here because Court got a great exit out of that corner. Barnes behind them almost found a way through, and Court's gone extremely deep into turn 1. Cleared Swanepoel into the corner, but couldn't get it pulled up, and now they're going to go side by side again. Oh, contact! But they save it. And now Barnes gets in there, sliding that car in on the rears, trying to get it stopped as Court almost into the back of Swanepoel. Barnes again gets up the inside of Court, but again can't keep the car up there, as that was a little hit check further back for Morris. who gets turned into the fence in a big way by Mitchell McLeod. And that was... I think that was just a racing incident, to be honest with you. They just didn't... Neither of them really turned into each other. It was just a case of the track went right. I don't think either of them really turned right.
Let's see here. We'll be able to see a little bit easier here from McLeod's just holding the wheel. No movement of the wheel.
Left, yeah.
It just goes left with the natural flow of the corner. I don't think there's anything too much in that. So racing incident for me, but unfortunate because I'm sure McLeod wouldn't have wanted to get a pass done that way. He's back up into 9th, but battle for the lead is still on. With yeah, it is. With 1 and a bit lap to go, this is going to be an intense final lap here. Will Mullas be able to get the move done?
So this is the final lap of the race. And the gap when they crossed the line was 0.6 of a second. So Klopman's actually opened it up by about just under half a second in the last couple of laps. And he's given himself a little bit of breathing room now over Mullas. And unless Mullas can find something big for the middle section of this track, I think that it might be a little bit too far back, the man from a pole position. Might not quite be there at the end when it really matters, as there's a great battle for 4th place too, and it involves Sokolov turning Jurovsky around, and Jurovsky goes spinning off and into the barrier there at the top of the hill on the gravel trap, and he'll rejoin in 5th place. He's only lost 1 spot from that spin, right in front of Andrew Hopley, who won't be able to capitalise, at least not yet anyway, as out front it's Klopman quite comfortably over Mullas, making the way through the final sections of the track now. And I think it's safe to say that Klopman has done a better job today than Mullas. Neither of them appear to have made a mistake. They started on the front row together. They're going to finish in the first 2 spots together. But it's a role reversal. The man that started on pole is going to be second. And the man from 2nd place, he almost jumped the start. He got it reeled in. And then he reeled in and felt Alfonso Mullas. And it's going to be Cohen Klopman that comes across the line and wins here at Circuit Park, Zandvoort. Week 10 of the Audi Michelin Pilot Challenge. Mullas home in 2nd. Golda Racina will take 3rd. Sokolov will be 4th ahead of Jurotsky in 5th.
Sokolov's redressing that spot that he gave away.
So, yep, a good redress there from Sokolov, and almost lost out to Andrew Hopley. He comes home in 6th place ahead of Cespon, Harris, McLeod. Morris in the end will come home in 10th. Swain Pole and Barnes 11th and 12th coming down to the wire, but Swain Pole is going to have enough out of the final corner. Then behind them is 13th Ruel, Alex Court 14th, Ashley Ruskin 15th, Daniel Cheney, Aidan Ford. And that's your field for today's race. Wingard finished 4 laps down, and Jesko Kazmarak never took the start of this one, so he'll lose a little bit of R rating. And of course, no prizes on offer for this series. What I do get is an R rating boost for the guys that finish roughly in the top half of the field, and a bit of a reality check for the guys in the bottom half, and they'll lose a bit of R rating and have to come back next week and gain it all back. As you see your official results scrolling through on your screen as we called them out coming across the line. And Jay, it was actually a pretty good race there. It wasn't the most fun of overtaking we've ever seen, but the battles were extremely close as a result of the nature of the track, and we saw some pretty good action.
Yeah, I think it was probably one of the more cleaner TCR races we've had too, because Lime Rock last week got a little bit messy during that mid stage of the race, but that was very, very clean. A couple of little awkward passes and awkward bumps, but for the most part that was a really clean and really good race. So well done to everyone out there on track. And next week we head to one of my favourite tracks on iRacing. We head to Mosport, off to Canada, and Canadian Tire Motorsport Park will definitely provide some really, really cool racing. A really cool track, and the flow of that track should be really interesting to watch in these cars. I'm looking forward to seeing how this car and that track behave together.
As am I, and hopefully next week we'll have Brock Cat-Eye back in the booth alongside me, and Jay can go back to his directing, and Brock can bring his insight up here to the commentary booth. If you want to see that race or be part of that race next week, then get involved and have a look at 8:20 Australian Eastern Time next Thursday night. But in terms of what's coming up for SimSpeed TV, you've got that next Thursday, the official iRacing Supercar Series Monday night at Belle Isle, and on Sunday night, V8 Scops also go street circuit racing at the Belle Isle track. Both of those on the iRacing Esports Network. But that will about do us for tonight. Make sure you give us a like, hit subscribe, and stay tuned for all future broadcasts on SimSpeed TV. And from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Jake Kennedy alongside me, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. Good night, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!